Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are uncovering the surprisingly deep science behind what is, let's be honest, an absolute cinematic masterpiece. We're talking about Pixar's hit movie, Inside Out. Now, we aren't just going to do a standard movie review here. No, we're actually going to break down the hidden psychology of the film to explore the true astonishing power of sadness.
Have you ever looked at someone and just wondered, what is going on inside their head? It's a completely universal question, right? We all do it. It's this giant mystery that has totally captivated us for generations. And you know what's really fascinating? Both rigorous academic scientists and the creative minds over in Hollywood have been trying to crack this exact same puzzle for decades.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, Inside the Hollywood Mind, from 1943 to Inside Out.
Now, you might think personifying emotions is a fairly recent trend, but actually, Disney first explored how our feelings drive behavior way beyond logic and reason, back in a 1943 short film called Reason and Emotion. So when you sit down and watch those adorable animated characters in Pixar's present-day hit, you're actually looking at something deeply rooted in over 150 years of scientific history. It's wild. It stretches all the way back to Charles Darwin's evolutionary theories in 1872, moves right through those early Disney experiments in 1943, builds heavily on Paul Ekman's research in the 1960s, and then culminates right here in the present day with Inside Out.
In the modern film, almost all the action takes place inside the mind of an 11-year-old girl named Riley. And Riley is struggling with a massive life event. Her family is packing up and moving from Minnesota to San Francisco. Because of this incredibly stressful move, the film essentially forces us to hang out for a really long time with her so-called negative emotions. We're thrust face-to-face with sadness, fear, and anger. Which brings us to Section 2, the science of basic emotions, looking at 150 years of psychological research.
So let's shift our lens away from the Hollywood storytelling for a second and look at the academic research, because we really want to unpack the actual proven science behind these characters. Back in the 1960s, an American psychologist named Paul Ekman suggested that people basically have 6 core emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and surprise. And Ekman didn't just guess this out of thin air. His research took him literally across the globe, from Japan to Brazil and even out to a remote part of Papua New Guinea. What he found was that emotional expression stays the same across cultures. It is truly universal. And hey, if this list looks super familiar, it's because the film actually adopted 5 of these 6 as its main characters. It definitely didn't hurt that Ekman himself stepped in as a scientific consultant on the movie.
But listen, Ekman was building on a much older foundation. He was heavily inspired by Charles Darwin, whose 1872 work basically argued that our emotional expressions are determined by evolution. They are literally physical survival mechanisms. Just think about a fear reaction for a second. It leads directly to an immediate physical response, like running away from a predator, which, ensures your survival. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the intense scientific debate surrounding all of this. While Ekman's theory of 6 universal emotions has been hugely influential for over 50 years, not everyone entirely agrees. Actually, some psychologists argue that how we experience emotions is highly individual. Others suggest a sort of biological simplification. They argue that basic emotions like fear and surprise, or anger and disgust, should actually just be combined into 4 categories because, biologically speaking, they are incredibly similar. Moving into Section 3, the negative emotion myth, and how we are challenging the culture of toxic positivity. Regardless of whether there are 4, 5, or 6 basic emotions, we have a major societal issue with how we view them. This is the core conflict we really need to understand today. We have to stop and ask ourselves, are negative emotions actually negative? We spend so much time labeling sadness, fear, and anger as bad. It's culturally and socially reinforced constantly that there is something inherently wrong or even shameful about feeling sad. But we really have to ask, is that cultural shame and bias actually justified by the science? Well, we have a stark contrast here. On one side, we have our cultural bias, a society that overwhelmingly values positive thinking and actively shames sadness. But the scientific reality shows us something else entirely. Studies actually show that people who actively try and suppress negative thoughts end up experiencing far more of them. Suppressing those uncomfortable feelings isn't harmless. It can lead to a much stronger stress response, and even physical behaviors like overeating. Basically, this toxic positivity is actually harming us. Let's look at Section 4, the hidden power of sadness and the surprising benefits of feeling down.
So if suppressing it is bad, what actually happens when we accept it? Well, sadness isn't a glitch or a flaw in our mental programming. It is a vital, necessary feature. Inside Out perfectly shows us that negative emotions actually help guide our rational thinking. Believe it or not, sadness is a direct trigger for seeking comfort. It encourages deep, meaningful social bonding with others. We are often incredibly tough on sadness, but it's absolutely crucial for our understanding of who we really are.
And let's look at how emotions can overlap. Take this super relatable mixed emotion example. I'm sad, or maybe disgusted, that there's broccoli on my pizza, but I'm happy because it means I can experience new things. Obviously, this isn't just a funny little quote. A real study found that people who experience happy and sad emotions at the exact same time show measurable improvements in their long-term mental well-being over the following weeks. And that's true even if those mixed feelings were really unpleasant in the moment.
So the crucial point is captured beautifully by Robert Burton way back in his 1621 work, Anatomy of Melancholy. He wrote that increaseth sorrow, increaseth wisdom. I mean, that gives some incredible historical weight to the idea that experiencing melancholy is not a failure. Embracing it can actually lead to better, more rational decisions and a much deeper kind of wisdom.
Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, the emotional roller coaster, embracing the full spectrum of your mind.
We absolutely have to stop viewing our mind as a battleground between good and bad feelings. Even if you feel like you are riding up, down, or literally inside out on that emotional roller coaster, remember this fundamental takeaway. Your positive and negative emotions can, and absolutely do, team up. There is always an upside. So I want to leave you with this question to carry with you today. How will you let your positive and negative emotions team up today? Stop suppressing the sadness, start embracing its power, and let your full emotional spectrum actually guide you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.